Welcome back to Heart, the story of us. My name is Funso, and today we have a very special guest on this very special episode. His Eminence, Gyalwa Dokhampa. Welcome to the show, Rinpoche.
Thank you very much, Pinso. It's a pleasure to see you after almost a year and to come back here and to do this talk show with you. I'm very much looking forward to our conversations.
Likewise, thank you very much, Rinpoche. I think this year must mark, I think, your 9th year since your first visit, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and then since your first visit, there's obviously been a huge influx of Bhutanese, right, into Australia. And do you still remember some old faces from back in the day?
Oh yes, definitely. And I think one of the old faces that I remember is your parents, especially your father, because I remember that it was your father who wanted to make a home, and he asked me to come and bless his land. And I was feeling so joyful. I remember that Bhutanese have come, to foreign land, struggled, and now finally able to even build their home. That is such an inspiration, and shows that Bhutanese are starting to do well here. So that is, I think, one of the fondest memories I have of my early days in Perth.
Thank you very much, and I think for our family as well, it's something that we always keep close to our heart because, I think ever since Rinpoche blessed our land, everything started going uphill from there on, and any investments my parents made, and like even the love and joy within the house itself was also at its peak as well after, and we're very grateful for that especially, and then also for you making time for in 2017 when the house was built. I think mum and dad were quite disappointed initially because when we looked at your schedule, it was full, right?
Yeah.
And then when Rinpoche and my parents met, Rinpoche insisted that you must come bless the house as well. And I remember that day I was in my school uniform because I was at school, and then Dad called me and Dad was like, okay, Rinpoche is coming, get a note to get signed out of school. Because obviously they don't want they try to prevent students from bunking.
Oh, I see.
And then that day in particular was a very hot day, and that was a hot day. That was the first hot day that Perth had in a long time.
Oh, I see.
And so a lot of kids were bunking.
Oh, I see.
I had a note, and then I went in, and then I had a good relationship with this teacher. He looked at me and just started laughing, and then I started laughing. He was like, "Did you forge this?" I was like, "You can ask my parents." And then he was like, "No, seriously, did you forge this?" I was like, "I don't know. You can either sign me out. You can call my parents." And he was like, "Come to the office," and then I was laughing the entire time. He called Dad, and Dad was like, "Yeah, I've given my son permission to leave." And he looked at me like that. I was like, "See, I told you." And then I remember to visit it, and then we were very grateful because you didn't have to, but obviously Rinpoche did. So thank you very much for that.
No, I have to thank you since I invited myself over.
And I just wanted to also cover because since your first was 2016. Since 2016, I think a lot has changed. Not just an influx of Bhutanese, but I think how Bhutanese have basically developed and gone from maybe, let's just say, my parents first building their home to now many Bhutanese having their own homes, building their dream houses, and having kids and a family here. And I think, although people do say that they would like to go back one day, maybe that one day may never come for them, right? Because there might be circumstances where they have to readjust the plans and then stay here for maybe the grandkids, right? So when you see this many Bhutanese coming into Perth, in Australia in general, and leaving Bhutan, what's some, maybe, is there like a big fear that you have maybe regarding the loss of culture, the loss of our own values as Bhutanese?
Actually, I think even the very reason that we started to Australia, was because we wanted to create a small sanctuary, even if it's a small impact, but have an impact in having a center, because this was the first center probably in whole of Australia.
I agree. I think it started off as Drupa Perth.
Yes, Drupa Perth, especially in Perth, it was definitely the first. So our hope was that by having a center, it will keep the Bhutanese people, connected with their values of compassion, lei jumde, caring for their elders also returning their care with love and guidance. These values will be kind of, supported by developing a place called Drupa Perth or Drupa Australia. That was, the first kind of the intention. That was the reason why we started Drupa Australia. And I remember when I went to, Canberra and around Australia, many Bhutanese shed tears. They said it's been almost 5 years they didn't hear the sound of dong and jaling. It was so emotional, for them. And now, as you mentioned, we have, I think, such a huge influx of Bhutanese here. And, and firstly, I want to say that from my point of view, when I see Bhutanese doing well, be it in Australia, be it in Bhutan, it gives me a lot of joy, because Bhutanese by nature, they love their country, they love their king, they have a huge respect for Buddha Dharma. So when they do well, indirectly the country does well. Whether it is a project of the Skillful mindfulness city, how much the Bhutanese in the country as well as those outside have contributed, be it the sending the funds back to the country, say helping their family members, and even for religious institution also, how many masters come to Australia and Bhutanese, even though they themselves are students, migrants, settling down. I'm sure that compared to those who are well settled and have home, I'm sure the number of people who are just starting to settle down is much more. But still they are so generously, So I think that we all have to, appreciate all the Bhutanese, and who are doing well. And the Bhutanese themselves also, whether in Bhutan or in Australia or United States, other countries, they have to be also kind of, I won't say proud, maybe not proud, but appreciate themselves, for their hard work and sacrifice and generosity, towards country, family, Buddha Dharma. So that's, I think, first we have to acknowledge that. And secondly, now when it comes to the future of the, will so many Bhutanese living out of the country, will it lead to loss of culture, loss of Buddhist values, loss of what makes a Bhutanese or Bhutanese, what makes Bhutanese Bhutanese. And being a Bhutanese can mean clothes that you wear, foods that you eat, but it can also mean the values that you hold dear. So now whether we have to worry about that or not, I think depends. I don't think we can make a unilateral declaration that we have to be worried or we shouldn't be worried, because it will depend on the decision, the choices that we, the present generation, make. Those I think, who are in Bhutan as well as those who are outside, what decision and choices we make. For example, just a short while ago, we were discussing, and I was telling you that one thing I would like to request all the Bhutanese is that once you have the capacity, financial capacity, you are a little bit settled down here, it is very important for Bhutanese to go back to Bhutan, if possible, once a year, if not at least once in a 2 year. Go there, spend time with your family members, your elderly parents who are aging, visit the holy places, and more importantly, to take your children along with you and let them learn where you come from, what are your values. That's so important, because if this is not done, then in the future, after 10, 20, 30 years, if we blame our children, saying that our children have no value, they have no compassion, they have no legendary, they are putting us, maybe, in aged care. I went for a vacation, and when I came back, my son Tashi had sold off the property and put me in aged care. You can't blame the children, because the Bhutanese, the present generation who have come, who are in Australia, largely grew up in Bhutan. We grew up in environment, you Bhutanese grew up in environment, land blessed by Guru Rinpoche, blessed by Shabdrung Ngawang Namgyal, blessed with so many masters, successive Dharma kings, teachers, even the prayer flags and the visual signs that you see. These are all, shaping us, shaping our worldview, shaping our value. So when we let our children, totally disconnect from that and yet expect them to have all of the values that you have, it's asking for impossible.
Exactly, I agree.
It's like, like I remove the cheese and the chili, but it still should be emadase.
Exactly that. I agree.
How is that possible? Right?
Exactly that.
So of course, I think what we can do is within Australia also, when the many masters are visiting, that will also have an impact. Centers will also have an impact, to some extent. But I think the main thing, if to you can call it my suggestion, you can call it my request, especially to those of Bhutanese who are connected with me, who are my friends, that it is very important that you all should, once in 1 year, 2 year, to visit Bhutan regularly, spend time, take your children, teach your children about Guru Rinpoche, Shabdong, to do Benza Guru, to offer them, make them into a kind and compassionate human being, who will naturally be good to everyone, to themselves, to their family, and to yourself too when you get old. I think this is, very important. So I think basically, whether the Bhutanese values and cultures will disappear or it will, stay on, it depends on each and every one of us.
100%.
The decision and the choice and actions that we take or we fail to take.
Yes, la. And I agree with everything Rinpoche just stated, la. Because I think it's like I mentioned earlier as well. For me, like growing up in a Western society, very Western society, without really any Bhutanese friends or any classmates right throughout my last schooling life in Australia. I think until maybe about 15, 16, I was I didn't really, I wanted to be more Australian than I wanted to be Bhutanese. And then the whole, you wanted to, wherever you go, you want to talk English. Like even in the household, I think to this day, I still converse, I still have conversations with my mum in English, because that's basically what's happened. Throughout my entire childhood, I was always talking in English, and then now that's kind of just been like the comfort zone, right? So even now, I'm talking English, with my mum and dad every now and then. But I think I've started to put in a bit of Zonka every now and then. But until the age of 16, I think actually no, I believe if I didn't make that visit to Bhutan at the age of 16, I don't think I would have really engaged myself amongst the Bhutanese community much, because I didn't realize how lucky I was coming from Bhutan.
That's true.
Because living in Australia, when you're young, all you think about is fitting in.
Exactly.
But then what you kind of want to do is, you're special when you fit out, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Amongst all of the Westerners, everyone that speaks maybe just one language, which is English, right? The universal language. We're able to speak two, some multiple, right? Some you've got the multiple, like the dialects in Bhutan, and also a lot of Bhutanese can speak Hindi and Nepali, which isn't even part of it is even like our national language. So visiting in 2016 it was huge, and basically connecting with what Rinpoche just said, like, just that one visit made me just look at the bigger picture, view Bhutan differently, like appreciate where I was from, and then I started to try to get back into learning Tsongkha, because because of the tongue twist that Tsongkha in English has. it was difficult for me to express what I wanted to because I couldn't get my tongue to shape certain
Yes.
certain words correctly. So then I had always had like family like going around with me to buy clothes and all that. And then I was like, nah, this isn't it because I look like all of them, but I can't communicate with all of them. So what's the use of saying you're from Bhutan if you can't speak the language, right?
That's true.
And then talking to my grandparents in Gyalwa from my mum's side, it was difficult initially, but then I forced myself to understand it. But I could understand it, but then replying to them, I'd want to stick to English. But then again, my grandparents don't speak English, so then I'd force myself to speak Zonka. And little by little, I got there. And then even I'm having a conversation with with my dad's dad, my granddad, who at that time would have been in his early 90s, and then he was trying to like tell me anecdotes from back in the days, and then I had to have my auntie sitting there next to the heater translating, and as she was translating, she started tearing up, crying because of the stories he was telling me, and then I listening to her translation, I started crying, but it would have been more like soulful if I understood the language right. And then just that it was only 1 month. I think I went end of November, returned end of December or early January. But just that one visit, that was my first in 5 years. Just clicked my whole perception of how I viewed myself and how I viewed home, basically.
Where you come from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think if I hadn't made that visit at all, maybe for me home would be Australia, right?
Yeah.
I would have just been another one of those migrants that said, "Oh, like, where are you from? I'm from Australia."
Yeah.
But then but then I'm not really, am I?
Yeah.
And then so that one visit I'm super grateful for because it just changed my whole perception of it. And I think like Rinpoche stated, parents should encourage children to grow up
Yeah.
because it's worth that investment.
Yeah.
Maybe if you grow up as a family, it may get expensive because our culture is to give, right? So give the gifts,
Yes.
you start thinking about all of
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
then you try to prolong your visits.
That's true.
But then I do believe it's worth that investment because, sure, it's an investment which doesn't feel like an investment. You think you're going there, you're just spending money, but in reality, you're helping your children connect, and you don't have to literally tell them to connect, but just small things like looking around, going around Thimphu Town, Bhutanese. On the first day, you go up to Dichpulagang and you're like, oh wow, like this is part of our culture. Like people come here, and then you go up the steps, you make a wish, and then you pray for people, right?
Yeah.
So that small visit, that small 1 month visit, changed my whole perception of it. And then the moment I returned back to Australia, I remember I was like, okay, cool, I'm Bhutanese now. And then that's when I started attending all the wangs and all that.
Oh,
So I
I
think
see.
before that,
I
I was
see.
quite oblivious to it.
Oh,
I
I
would
see.
maybe go because my parents wanted me to, but maybe I'd just sit there not really caring. And then I decided to go to engage myself amongst the community.
See.
And then I started going to Wongs, and I think that's how
Yes.
I grew fond of Rinpoche as well, because
Yes.
you conducted your teachings in English. I could understand that, and then Rinpoche yourself very young as well. So then I felt a very fond connection. So for my family and for myself particularly, I think you have a very special part in my heart as well as my parents.
Thank you.
So yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you for
Thank you
sharing
for all of
that.
that as well.
Thank you for sharing.
But yeah,
that.
I'm definitely in agreement with everything that you
Yeah,
just said about
yes.
it. It's very important, isn't it? Rinpoche?
Yes, I've, of course, I understand that every Bhutanese who have come here, none of them, came here because they didn't love their country. They all, I think, any Bhutanese or anyone who has spent their life in Bhutan, they love their country. They love how peaceful it is. How, generally, how nice the people are. Relatively, you can say they are good and bad, but everything is relative. So I would say relatively, I would say that in general, Bhutanese people are very nice people, So, and they just come out because of economic situations. So I don't think someone like me has the right to say that you should live here or you should go back. That is up to them. I'm sure many will go back. Many will help with the mindfulness project in Gyalwa for sure. But I think the request to kind of reminder to visit Bhutan often and take the children with them. Sometimes when they can't go themselves, they can just send the children. And I know that one of the reasons people hesitate is because when they go back, they have to, give a lot of gift and all of that. But that is also because you visit so far apart,
Exactly. If you go more
right?
frequent, you don't have to take.
Exactly, like myself, I am like throughout every year, I'm traveling everywhere. That nobody expect anything from me. This is like a regular guy. He
Exactly.
comes every year. So my bag is quite light.
No passes, nothing, right?
Yeah, no, so he goes every year.
Oh, he'll be back soon.
Yes, so right.
But definitely, I think even that visit, sorry, the 2016 visit, I went by myself
Yeah.
initially from here, and then mum and brother followed shortly after. And even like a recent example could be my brother going back to Bhutan. I think he came here when he was maybe 10 months old,
Oh, I see.
and he went back
Younger
as
than you.
yeah, much younger than me. So 6.5 years younger than me. And then he left. He went back to do Gyalwa training, and he would have just turned 18. Oh, he would have been 18 and a half years. It was in March. And I think before that, maybe you could say, an Australian, right?
Oh, I see.
And then going back, I think he really enjoyed how people identify, I think initially people identified him as like a Korean guy, because he didn't know how to speak English.
I see.
So he didn't know how to speak Sangha, he could only converse in English.
I see.
And then my dad and my relatives in Bhutan were saying, "Oh, he doesn't like it when people say that. Why are they calling me that? Like, I'm from Bhutan." And I think that's when it clicked for him. It's like, I'm Bhutanese as well.
Yeah.
And then going to Gyalwa, I think he's had the same issue I did as well with the whole tongue twist and all that.
Yes.
But he did 3 months of training, which we're very proud of. Returned back, and then he's able to understand Zonko very well.
Yes.
I think he's still trying to get used to the whole tongue twisting and all that. Trying to get his mouth used to all of that.
Yeah.
But coming back from Bhutan, just that one visit as well, I can see that mannerism wise, also the way he respects elders, maybe like saying ajim, just a simple small thing, right?
Yes.
I've noticed that, and even yesterday I took him out for lunch, and then the way when he was talking to me.
Finally, he called you Acho.
Because when he was in Bhutan, I was messaging. I was like, "How's everything going?"
Yes, yeah.
And whenever he got the phone, he was like, "Oh, good, thanks, Acho." And I was like, "Whoa, this is normal now."
Oh, I see.
Because usually it used to be just called Funso.
Yeah.
And he was like, Acho. I was like, "Oh, is this you? Are you happy?"
That's true. And when someone calls you Acho, you also feel a sense of protection and caring towards your nucho, no?
Exactly. Right.
No, the words can also, have so much of impact. The language can have so much impact.
It's just those little small things. It doesn't necessarily have to be, okay, go back to Bhutan, learn everything.
Yeah.
You just go back, okay, now what we say to elders is Acho, Ajim,
Yes.
La, and all that. So just those small tweaks, it all adds up. It's all like pieces to a puzzle.
True.
And then it turns into this whole puzzle, and then by the time you realize you appreciate where you're from, and you want to be recognized as a Bhutanese rather than an Australian.
Yes. And I think that it is good to go out, learn the world, see the world, to learn the thing. But it is possible to be proud of who you are, yet be respectful of others' culture.
Exactly. Definitely.
Right? Just because you appreciate your own culture so much, you'll understand that others' culture too must be important to them. So actually you become more respectful towards others' culture. And I feel another benefit of making a visit to Bhutan will be in the future, if you do decide to move back, if you decide to do I'm sure many Buddhists, they wish to do, but if there's been too long a gap, then, and your children have never visited Bhutan, they don't have any friends, they don't feel any emotional connection, then they might say, "Please go, but I'm going to stay back."
Exactly. Right.
No,
That's something that I think
that
the
may
big fear
happen.
that I have as well.
No.
Definitely, I think because then for them they think about, okay, cool. When you go back to Bhutan, so a lot of these kids here get unlimited internet, right? So iPad kids. When they go back, what am I going to do, right? And I do believe I would have fallen in the same pathway, because I can see how I would have felt comfort in staying back rather than going to Bhutan, right?
Yes.
Now, I definitely agree with what Richard just said as well.
I think we do have Starlink now.
Yes.
So we do have, I don't know if it's unlimited, but I think quite a fast internet, I believe.
Kids. Not this. It doesn't matter how old you are. Please go to Bhutan. It's starting
Yes, yes.
but at a good cost as well.
Yeah.
But like I said, it might feel like you're spending money unnecessarily right now, but at the end of the day, it's an investment into your own children.
Yep.
And it's something when I have kids as well, I definitely make sure
Yes.
I encourage it as well.
And one of the good fortune of, I think, those who are in Australia is that legally they're allowed to go back and forth,
Exactly.
I think many Bhutanese who are in the United States, they don't have that option. For them, is they have sacrificed so much for their family member. They want to come back, but that means leaving everything.
Exactly.
So it is something that what opportunity that we have in, I think, the Bhutanese Australia have is something that many Bhutanese in other foreign countries may not have.
Definitely. And also, continuing the conversation as well, I was as we were having that conversation, I was thinking about because obviously we'll talk about mental health a little bit as well.
Yeah.
With a huge influx of Bhutanese coming here, the whole perception of coming to Australia, maybe back then during my parents' came, it was more to study, right? It was like, okay, cool, we're going to Australia to gain an education and to enhance our abilities and then to return to Bhutan. I think that was the trend for most of the time during that time. But then now it's mainly most people are under the whole concept of okay, Australia that a large bewa. And because of that, because they see people doing maybe okay, let's say today an example, someone's come here, they've built a house back in Bhutan, they want to follow that as well, and they say, look on you. And then when they fail to accomplish that, they kind of put themselves into a little deep hole, right? And this isn't just Bhutanese. This is like any culture. Doesn't matter if you're Bhutan, if you're a Westerner. It happens to everyone. But but obviously being Bhutanese, we're a lot more sentimental towards Bhutanese people because we don't want to see that ever happening. So maybe what are some advices you could give to people that found themselves maybe thinking that cool, they should be at a better stage in life, and like I previously discussed with Richard as well, thinking that at a certain age you should be somewhere at a certain age, and when you don't get to that level where you feel a bit down on yourself, you're a bit hard on yourself. So what are some techniques or maybe some advice you could give viewers and myself as well from getting those negative thoughts out and thinking more in a positive manner where everything's a lesson and you learn from it and you progressively get better at everything you do?
Remember, before this our talk, we were talking about, like a parent might have two children. One is quite smart, and the parents are always pushing them to be successful, and and the another one is not too smart, but he's quite stay at home and kind of affectionate, but a little bit not so intelligent, not so career oriented. And the other children does very well and so successful. But he's so successful that now in parents in their old age, barely see them once in 4 or 5 years. When they want to go to hospital checkup, when they can't walk well, when they are not strong as before. Actually, the son who's really helping them is the one not so smart one who actually is, really, looking after them. Exactly. And then maybe, you can actually think that maybe actually you have to, the definition of who is a good son might also change. Right?
Exactly.
Right?
Because at that time, I think when you get to a certain age, you're not fighting money anymore. You're kind of fighting time, right?
Exactly. I have noticed that, as we age, our values change. When you are younger, I think, you want, I don't know, whatever it is you are chasing, mostly external things, material success, etc. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you have to recognize that these values will change over time. And when you are old, I think when you're aged, what you really want more than anything is that to be able to have attention of your children, your loved ones. That is the most important, because if you have another just 10, 15 years to live, more money, doesn't mean much.
Exactly.
What more can you do?
Exactly.
Right?
Money can't buy time.
Yes, right? And whether you have a one house or two house, you only have one body.
Exactly.
You can sleep only in one bed. You can't sleep in multiple houses at the same time.
That's right.
Right? And I think that I fully respect the sentiments of Bhutanese who have come here to do well, and if they're able to do well in here and they're able to help you know help their family members and successful here, and either they go back with the success or they stay here and help, that's also something very wonderful. And in case you are not able to do well in here, that doesn't mean that you are not meant to do well. It just means that you don't have the karma to do well in Australia. That your destiny might actually be waiting for you in Bhutan. And Bhutan now with the Skillful mindfulness and city, we do need the talents, the people, the man force. So actually, in a way, you can say you're going back. Is also a service to your country. Service to your parents. Who you may be able to send money from here, but when they actually want to go to hospital, I don't think you can fly over just to take them to hospital.
Exactly.
Right? They might be all alone. So if you're able to, I think whether you're able to settle well here and help, that also here to appreciate. If you have to go back, I don't think that you should look down upon yourself. You should just say, oh, maybe, that is not my, karma. Maybe that's not meant to be. Maybe my destiny is back in Bhutan. And at the time of place where Bhutan, we are needing a lot of people, and you're coming back itself is a contribution.
Exactly. Exactly. I do believe, I think if we look at it how Butcher just said it, it is definitely the correct perspective and correct way of looking at it. But I think a lot of people they struggle to look at it from that point of view because there's this whole social stigma between if you come to Australia and you don't do something back home, you don't come back with something more than what you left with, you're considered a failure to people because that's basically the social stigma that goes around. And obviously it's not the right stigma because it's not the case, right? Because at the end of the day, what's important is your body, your mind. And when people go back and they hear that, obviously it's something that it's not something you want to hear because it takes a huge mental toll on them. So they rather just stay here and struggle. And do you think it's possible to get rid of that social stigma in any sense?
There's a saying in Buddhist kind of teaching that if you walk to the forest and your feet get pricked by a thorn, and then you feel this forest has too much thorn, I'm going to cover the entire forest with the leather. It's impossible. All you have to do is go to shopping mall and buy a good shoe. And it's equivalent to covering the entire forest with the shoe. So this example, if you apply it to this situation, it means that I don't think we can go to each and every member of society and say, please don't look down upon me, right? Because you cannot force people to change by yourself just by saying it. But I think what you can do is that you can understand that firstly, whatever we are thinking that there's some sort of stigma about it, firstly I think we should realize that it is possible that we may be overthinking it. In Bhutan there's more than 700,000 people, right? How many people have been born, died, what's happening? You don't know, right? Forget about Bhutan. Even in Perth, so many things are happening. Can you say you know everything that's happening? Right? Right? It is just that when something is happening to us and when a few people around are reacting, we feel like the whole world is against us, whole country is reacting to us and thinking negative thing about us. But forget about them and just put yourself in the shoes of others. When you hear that somebody didn't do well, maybe for a few minutes you might say, oh, really? But just for a few minutes, rest of the time, 99.9% of the time, We are busy thinking of our own problems, our own issues. Who really has a time to think about one person 24/7 to stigmatize him?
Definitely.
Right?
Exactly.
Right? So even if they do say, have a little bit of thick skin,
Yes.
because, that people's opinion, what does it matter? I mean, it will change,
Exactly.
right? Just today you might not do well, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, they'll do well. Like they're saying, in the Shanti Deva, that if people are, criticizing you, don't be disheartened. There are other people who are praising you.
Exactly.
Any other people are praising you, don't get too high too. There are other people criticizing you, for sure.
Stay balanced.
Stay balanced, don't get that affected. And this I am trying to say because this is the equivalent to wearing a shoe around your feet. Because this problem, if we are not able to have such kind of mental strength, it is not only about returning back to Bhutan. We will face so many challenges throughout our life. One day we can lose our job. One day we may, go through a divorce. One day we may go through certain challenges, which we feel the society will judge us for. And society is not the whole world. It's just a small group of people who know you. First of all, we are not that famous that everybody knows us. Even if you are famous all over Bhutan, Bhutan is such a, in terms of population, is not even 1% of the world population.
Exactly.
That means 99 point. The 7 points are so billion people. They don't even know you exist.
Exactly.
Forget about judging you for failing to do well.
Exactly.
Right.
I do agree. I think it just comes down to every individual's own resilience towards it, right?
Yes.
So I think developing some resilience is also very important in life.
Yes, because at the end of the day, by being sad about one situation and repeating that negative thought again, you are putting yourself down. You are actually, reducing your capacity to overcome the challenge, right? Who in the world, starting from all of the the successful peoples, if you look at all of their stories, it's full of failures. Starting from the Apple guy, the Steve Jobs,
yes.
He even lost his own company.
Yes.
No, he was chucked out, right? And I mean, at the end of the day, even he was successful, but at the end of the day, he also had to leave this world, all his wealth and everything behind. Now, he's just a name. We can't. There is not even a single atom you can find that is, bears the name of Steve Jobs. Right? So, in this, if you look at the long history of their life, how many emperors have come and gone? How many, our struggle is important individually, but on the larger scale, it's not something that is so great that we have to, that we have to kind of overthink about it.
I think that's. I don't know how to respond to that because everything which is said is just been just hit the mark properly, and I think it just comes down to like really being more positive, right? Because there's no real method to it except for thinking positively.
Yes.
Because I think if you do think negatively, then that negative thought might linger on, and then let's just say today you lose 5% of your energy because of that negative thought.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you might lose 10, and that could keep going on until you wake up, regardless of how much you sleep, drained. And I think that's when the whole that's when mental health really comes into play, right?
Yes, and I think that even when you are going through such a kind of downward trend, downward spiral, it's important to remember the positive things in your life, and it's more important is to actually face the people, face the society. Because if you really go out and face the people, you will see that even the so-called people who may judge you, they may say, he fell. But maybe there's also a sense of sympathy for you. Nobody is totally bad or totally, positive. So if you really face it, they may talk about it for a few days. After that, it will become, how many, things are happening around the world,
Exactly.
Right? Yesterday's headline is, today's, in the trash can,
Yes.
So I don't think that, it's like that. And also, you were talking earlier about, like achieving certain kind of, goal at certain ages. I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is that who created and defined these goals, right? Who?
Exactly.
Is it the kangaroos in Australia? Because if you tell the kangaroos, they don't care.
Exactly. They just
No?
live their own life in
Yeah,
the
you know.
wilderness.
Yeah, even if you say you're a billionaire, they'll say, okay, and they'll just hop
Hop,
around,
exactly.
you know, continue hopping. They don't care, you know. And you say, oh, I failed my, you know, I lost my job. I'm nobody, you know. They don't care.
Exactly.
No, because it's our, firstly, I think it's our society has certain kind of definition. And their definition also keeps changing. You know, like I was told that in the Lingxi, that is the part of Bhutan that is almost border to the Tibet, you know, in China. There, the wealthy people have stacks and stacks of rice.
Stacks and stacks of rice.
You know, just like it's some may not be even eatable, but they have stacks of rice because that was the definition of wealth.
Oh,
That was the status symbol. You know,
it's not money but rice.
yes, you know. So in the olden days, status symbol is how many cows you have,
Yes.
how many rice fields you have, right? Now the richest person will probably have an apartment in the, you know, maybe the CBD, and that apartment is worth millions. But if you really go, actually, it's much smaller than the farmland that, you know, maybe smaller than our farmland that you have back in Bhutan.
Exactly. Yes.
Right? So you know that. So all of these definitions of success and all of that, especially if we are too narrow about our definition of success, we are putting ourselves in a box. Right? If we say that success means everybody must become multimillionaire, that means 99% of us are going to be a failure. Because you know, if everybody does become millionaire, that means inflation has gone so much that million will be worth nothing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
If you know the beauty means everybody must look like a, you know, I don't know, Miss Universe something. Nobody is beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Because everything is a relative.
Yes.
Right? You know, long and tall, short, beauty. There's relative. There's no opposite. There is, you know, the whole definition begins to dissolve.
Yes. There's no real exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. You know? So I think success should be defined from my point of view. Maybe I'm wrong, you know, but from my perspective, success should be defined in a more practical terms, that you're able to have a roof over your head, that you're able to take care of your family, have a good education, reasonably able to sustain yourself and your family for the foreseeable future. If you have that, you know, you are, you know, successful in the real life. On top of that, if you have a, you know, wisdom, compassion, mental clarity, you are even spiritually successful. If you have between that, you are already successful. On top of that, if you happen to make $1 million or two, you know, then why not? It's a caveat, you know, it's an extra icing on the cake. Why not? And probably if you are someone who has that kind of clarity, then even your wealth and influence you have, you will probably use it to make a difference in the life of others. Your wealth will become a blessing for everybody around you. But you can't. I don't think we should define success in a very narrow kind of view and define it and then put ourselves in a box, you know, and torture ourselves for not being fit in the box that, you know, nobody created, but we ourselves created.
Exactly. And I think it's very subjective as well, right?
Exactly.
Because each community could have their own definition of success.
100%.
And then I think maybe with Westerners, their definition of success could just mean being able to pay all the bills and then living a happy life like that, like living mouth to mouth. What's the saying we got? Hand to mouth, right?
Yeah,
Hand to
yeah.
mouth, yeah.
Hand to mouth.
And then but for Bhutanese, maybe our definition of success, especially to the ones that are here, the definition of success is to go back and do all of that. But then you can't, like what you just said, you can't, like, there's no real definition to it. Yeah. So you can't really beat yourself up over it, right?
Yes.
Because if you do, then you will never stop beating yourself up over it. Because I think every time you achieve something, you don't just sit there and be like, okay, cool, now I'm successful. You go, oh, what's my next goal?
Exactly.
And when you don't meet that, then you go, oh, I'm a failure. But you forget the successful things you've done.
Exactly.
All the past definitions that you've had.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the definition isn't just subjective, but it's not just subjective to an individual, but rather their age and how they're thinking in that moment.
Exactly.
So I think that's
exactly.
Yeah. Now that I look at the bigger picture, there's no real definition to it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. There may come a time, where if someone asks you, what are you looking for? Is it money? Is it fame? Then we must say just peace of mind.
Exactly.
You
And
know?
that for you could be success, right?
Yeah, because if you lose peace of mind, no matter what you have, nothing may make sense.
Exactly.
How many famous celebrities, suicide, kill themselves? No, how many wealthy people, they actually, they don't even know what to do with their life, right?
And then for maybe just the let's just say maybe the individuals that are living a normal life, for them success is to do with money.
Yes.
But these individuals, like Richard just stated, with ample of money that could last them in 3-4 generations, a lifetime, you still get them on the news, like committing suicide, unfortunately, and going through their own mental battles.
Yes, because they don't know what is the purpose of their life anymore.
Exactly.
The purpose is defined by a certain amount of wealth. Once you achieve that, then what's next? What are you supposed to do?
Yeah, that was a very interesting topic we just covered, because I think it was something that I really wanted to hear from Rinpoche's perspective as well. Because Rinpoche is a huge advocate of meditating and just making sure that you're at peace and happy, right? I remember you always used to reiterate, just whatever you do, just be happy, just look after yourself, because this is what's important, right?
Yeah.
And
appreciate yourself.
Exactly.
What you have,
And I remember, I think I'm not sure which celebrity said it. I think it was Keanu Reeves actually. He said, no, it wasn't Keanu Reeves. I can't remember the celebrity, but I remember that there was this quote I heard. It's like, before you can love anyone, you must love yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can't love yourself, if you don't love yourself, how can you share your love to someone else, right?
Yes.
And to love yourself means to take care of yourself,
yes.
be at peace.
Be at peace with yourself,
Exactly.
And be kind to yourself.
So,
yes, and yes, I think we should, like, for example, I know that in many Western culture and modern culture, Bhutanese usually don't ask me this question, but many Westerners do ask me question, what is the purpose of life? And at the beginning, I found it very difficult to understand the question, because we usually don't have this kind of questions. Because from Buddhist perspective, we have been taught that purpose of our life is to, from a bigger point of view, become a Buddhahood enlightened for the sake of all sentient beings. Purpose of the life is to be able to give joy and happiness to people around you as well as yourself. Take care of yourself, take care of the beings around you. And by taking away the suffering of others, by giving happiness to others, that itself is the purpose. Right? So in order for that to happen, then we do other things. We try to become wealthy, we try to become politician, we try to learn dharma, do meditation, so that we can have the capacity to help others. That itself is the purpose. Right?
So I agree. Because one's purpose. I think if someone asked me that, I'd be like just sitting here and be like, okay, cool, purpose. Because I think a lot of people, maybe less than normal individuals like ourselves, would just say, oh, purpose is to grow up, have a job, have a family, and then whenever the time comes, you pass away. Right?
It sounds quite bleak.
Exactly, right. And then I was also on thinking on that question. I'll get one question I get from a lot of my friends, my Western friends, is, what is Buddhism? And then I have no answer to that. I'm like, okay, it's a religion, but at the same time, like, there's so much more to it. And I wish I could answer that. And I think the one reason why I'm unable to answer that is because maybe as a younger child I was ignorant, like I said, being from Bhutan and learning about the culture, and I'm unable to answer it. And going back to our initial topic about how we should be going back to visit, do you think maybe if this question is asked maybe 40, 50 years down the line, and the trend of kids being born in Australia, growing up here without visiting Bhutan often, continues, do you believe that maybe Bhutanese Buddhism is something that may fade away in the dust?
That's for sure. That's guaranteed. Because I have seen with my own eyes, many people who actually come from, who were born from a Buddhist country, but when they move to United States, when they move, their parents don't give importance to learning the Buddha Dharma, learning the values. They themselves do not learn, so what can they teach to their children? So basically, there's a saying in the America. One of my Chinese friends, she told me that her friends call her, yellow outside and white inside. Which basically means, I think, that she looks Chinese, but
exactly.
there's nothing about her that is
Chinese.
Chinese, right? So that is exactly what I can see, that many of my people who've come from Himalayan region, who have forgotten their culture, their religion, they just do celebrate just as a identity, just as identity, just as a culture. But culture without the value is like having a, ematasi without chili, without a statue, without a zong,
Exactly.
right? When I went to South America, some country, they say, "Oh, we are going to show you our culture." So somebody who's wearing a, normal dress suddenly changes into their South American ancient dress, and then do some dance for 10 minutes. Say, "Oh, this is our culture,"
Yes.
and they go back to dressing back in jeans, right? And that is the, if culture becomes something just that much, then it's a hollow culture, because culture means, the way we live, and way we live is based on what are our values, right? According to our value, we live, we speak, we dress, we eat, we behave. So I think if you lose that, definitely, I think that's a guaranteed thing.
Because my friends ask me that, I always go, okay, I'm 25. I was one of the first batches that came here with my parents. Okay, if I don't know this, even though I did some study in Bhutan, and although my parents, remember, did like encourage me to attend and all that, but if you're maybe I was there physically, but my mind was elsewhere, right? Being at that young age, and now that I think about it, I can't really tell people, I can't really explain to people everything about Buddhism,
Yeah.
and I fear that like it will become a domino effect, because now what's
That's
happening is, maybe during my grandparents' time, maybe 100% of the people in Bhutan knew everything, right? And then let's just say from the 100% of them, maybe let's just say 50% of them have passed away. There's
Yeah.
only 50% of them that can carry it down and teach the other,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
next generation.
Yep.
So the next generation, okay, then from the next generation, maybe the 50% teach to the other 50%. Then it just keeps going down.
Yes.
So maybe for children my age, the youth my age, once we have a family, how would we be able to teach something that we ourselves aren't able to fully grasp our whole concept over? Because right now, maybe my knowledge of it is minimal, book, because I try my best, but obviously with the complexities in the languages that maybe some of the other
That's
Rinpoches
true.
they're
That's
teaching,
true. I understand.
it's hard to
Yeah, yeah.
understand, right? But when Rinpoche yourself, and when you teach us, because you're conducting in English and then you're also translating it, and a lot of your prayer books, because a lot of you have a lot of outside followers as well
Yes,
from
yes.
other countries, other Buddhist
Yes.
countries. There's a lot of translation, so it's easy to understand. But then there's kids as well that don't attend.
That's true.
Maybe they attend other
Yes,
other
yes.
monks and all
Yes,
that, but they're unable to understand, like maybe myself, right?
yes.
Because
Yes,
it's not the same Zonka we communicate in.
Yeah.
I can communicate in Zonka amongst my friends, but if I was to if I was told to maybe teach in Zonka, I probably wouldn't be able to, because I don't have the right words, maybe not the right the rights. I don't know how to describe it, but the right type of language to teach.
Yep, yep. I understand.
Because all of that's, for me, I fear that it's fading.
That's for
especially
sure.
because
Yeah.
we come from a country that's so small.
Yep.
There's only 750,000 of us. Maybe 250,000 of them are old. Maybe there's only 500,000 that have the ability to teach. But from the 500,000, how many people? Maybe only 300,000 know how to teach it. And then maybe 300,000 only teach 100,000. And then that can just keeps going down.
True.
So then, when you come from a country that's so small, it's like Rinpoche reiterated earlier, that the visits to Bhutan must happen, and the parents must encourage children to attend
True.
these events.
And even in
It's very
Australia too.
important. Exactly.
That's true.
Because with other religions, with Christianity, for instance, Islamic, it's a lot of people, a lot of countries follow it.
Yes.
There's millions of them.
And there are a lot of effort
Exactly, put a lot of effort
from both the church and the
exactly,
parents too.
exactly.
Every Sunday they attend.
Exactly, right?
No?
From a very young age.
Yeah. That story, I think, basically, the story kind of tells us that, you know, if we ourselves don't hold the values and know about Buddha Dharma, Buddhist teachings, how can we ever hope to, teach our children? Because they learn from us. Starting with a simple thing is getting up in the morning and offering chip to Buddha Dharma, statue, and doing three prostration. They learn from us. So I think for Buddhists, I think we have to, the present generation, the parents especially have to learn themselves and then teach to the children.
I think one big thing that's overtaking all of that is because that requires obviously the individual needing to be in a certain place, right? You have to be there to be do, and you have to actually do it physically. Yeah. But I do believe the whole introduction of, I can't blame obviously like phones, electronics, they've got their benefits, but yeah. I do believe with the introduction of all of that, maybe kids are a bit more, kids prefer to go on their phones, their tablets, watch all of that, and I think at the same time, I'm not saying people, all parents do this, but I do think a lot of parents, because when they see their kids engaged, they get some time to relax, and with the busy schedule that most parents have throughout the week during their day off, maybe they feel that, okay, it's just better off just leaving them on their iPads and us relaxing and doing what we know. So whether it be waking up in the morning, doing a quick prayer, if you disregard your kids because you'd rather just wake up, do what's needed, make food, and then you're like, okay, let them rest in peace because you don't want them to annoy you. And then even when they're awake, you're like, okay, they're awake now, they're not annoying me. Maybe I'll go pray in our chesham while they're on their iPads instead of actually taking them with them.
That's true.
And I think with that as well, the issue with that is not just from that Buddhist take, but from just the take in life in general. When you're not there with your parents doing something, you're not able to learn and connect with them.
That's true.
And one thing I'm very appreciative of for my parents was, especially from a very young age, my dad always ensured, my dad especially always ensured, no matter how late he'd get back from work back in Lobisa when he was a professor, take me for a drive, and then he'd take me to the farm when he had time, and he always included me in all of his activities, especially when it had to do with external factors such as going to the farm, dealing with animals. And then from that age on, I think I learned compassion and all that. And then even with mum, she was always with me. No matter what, when I was younger, drop me to school, throughout my life, she's dropped me to school, picked me up, right? And just those small things when you're with your parents, you feel a connection, right? Instead of just saying, Kimi, my daddy respini, my ting body's busting on law, and to make sure that make that effort. And just putting that small effort into maybe engaging your kids with religion, maybe that can save Buddhism. Maybe that can save the whole, how long this lasts for. Because it is, for me, I do fear that it is something that's going down the drain, which is very sad to see. Because maybe we won't be around in 100 years, but what if there's no religion for Bhutan?
That's true.
What if Bhutan's a country with no religion? They say they're Buddhist, but what do you say to the tourists that are coming in? How do you explain to your kids? What are people going to say?
That's true.
It makes me very curious.
That's very true.
And I don't think we're 100 years away. I think it's much less than that.
That's true. That's true.
Because our parents are all getting older. They're losing energy. They don't have as much energy. And where children young adults 25 to 30 thinking about families, but I'm in a situation where I don't know how I'll be able to teach. But the best way for me to teach would be for me to engage with them, and also engage in Buddhist studies while also learning with them.
True. I definitely understand that it takes time and effort, but then anything that is meaningful takes time and effort. From nothing comes nothing.
Exactly.
And I'm not necessarily saying that every parent should spend hours in meditation and doing chanting and doing very elaborate rituals. If you can do that, wonderful. But I think a simple thing as every morning going with your children to the shrine room, and shrine also doesn't have to be elaborate. If you love elaborate, if you have the means, why not? Even a simple, a statue of one Buddha. In front of that, you offer a 7 bowls of water, and then do a 3 prostrations, right? And then in the night, you kind of clear away the 7 bowl offering and do a 3 prostration before you sleep with your children. That alone is a great teaching to your children, right? Because one day maybe the children will ask you, mother, father, why do you offer water to the Buddha? Buddha doesn't drink it,
Exactly. Right.
right?
Yeah.
And why offering? And that is that I think that will be an opportunity for the parent to tell the children that we offer to Buddha not for the sake of Buddha. Buddha drinks water, but because Buddha is nothing other than compassion and wisdom. Through Buddha, we understand that every sentient being, including me as a mother, as a father, or your teachers, or your friends, every sentient, or your animals, every sentient being wants happiness, doesn't want suffering. So if we can benefit others, if we can't, we should not harm sentient being. So through Buddha, we learn compassion. Through Buddha, we learn about the karma, that our actions and words and thoughts create our individual and the world that we see around us. Buddha said, if you want to know your past, look at where you are right now.
Exactly. Right.
If you want to know what's going to happen in the future, no need to ask astrologers or go to somebody to tell you, divine fortune teller. Just know what you are eating. How are you treating the people in your life? Are you short tempered? If you are blocking everybody for every small mistake in your social media, it means you are going to be very lonely for sure.
Yes.
Right? But if you are someone who understands that nobody is perfect, have some sort of tolerance, that means that your action will lead you to having a lot of friends, right? So that means that your present action will predict what's going to happen in the future. So Buddha represents to us not some sort of God who controls the world, not some sort of powerful, but someone who teaches us, someone who represents compassion and wisdom. By every morning going to the shrine and doing 3 prostration, making offering to the Buddha, we are saying that our highest value for us is development of wisdom and compassion. That is the highest value we want to develop. Other people will put, basketball, star or a Korean stars because that is the goal they want who they want to become. But we are putting Buddha because we want to, our highest priority and goal is to be able to develop compassion and wisdom like the Buddha has. That is why we are doing it. Just telling that much, I think you've already taught Buddhism to your essence of Buddhism to your children.
Definitely. I think it's something that's very important because if you're not able to, and that also has to come with making sure you interact with them, right?
Yes, yes.
And what I've realized is a lot of people always say, like, when they describe me, like my friends would be like, "Oh, he's a really nice guy, very caring and all that." And for me, it's not. I tell them I'm not trying to do all of this. It's just how I was raised.
That's true.
And I think it's huge. I'm very grateful to my parents once again for that. But it's something that you don't have to really force. If you put that time in when they're younger, you don't have to remind them to be compassionate. You don't have to remind them to be wise because they've grown up with you. They've seen what you've done. They get that because the moment you're born, your role models are your parents.
Fully agree with you.
So then you don't have to force. You don't have to force wisdom onto yourself. You don't have to force compassion because it comes naturally.
That is true.
Okay, cool. Even if you like maybe like being young, you go out, you go, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Today I'm just gonna just act normal, but then I don't want to talk to anyone. But then because inside you know that you're a very nice guy, you like to interact with people, you want to make sure everyone's fine. Holding yourself back in itself, it's hard, it's difficult. So then you end up talking to people, you're like, how you doing and all that. And then they say, oh, you're so kind and all that. But then you go, I'm not trying to be kind. That's just how I am, right?
Exactly. That's how you grow up.
Exactly.
How you
So
yeah.
if you're able to instill that into your kids, then I feel like Rinpoche just said, the small things
That's so
regarding
true.
like small, very small like practices
No.
will be instilled into the kids.
So you reminded me, that one of my teacher, Rinpoche, he was a very skillful in teaching me. And when he taught me, I was just 4.5 years old. So I remember, first time he taught me the prayer of Guru Rinpoche, the Gyalwa Dokhampa, he just told me that, oh, today I'll tell you a story. Because I used to love hearing stories. So Rinpoche told me, oh, before there was a man meditating in the cave. And suddenly Guru Rinpoche came flying on the cloud. And then he said, Gyalwa Dokhampa, Pemajung Kula Detrum, Londo Simple Khanis, Urgent Rinpoche, La Chancellor, that Samba Postato, And with that story, I learned the Guru Rinpoche prayer. I didn't even know that I was learning it. I thought I was listening to a story, right? And most of the values about karma, legum, nyingje, I actually learned when I was with Rinpoche and Mayumla when I was 4 or 5 years old. And even now, and even though you may make mistake, even though I may do something wrong, but at the back of mind, their voice, the sense of regret and sense of shame, when you do something wrong by accident, is there. Right? And recently I saw a very interesting post on social media that if you have a sense of shame, it means that you have a sense of honor, a sense of righteousness. When you can do all sort of things and not even sense of shame, it doesn't mean you are great. It means you have no honor left at all.
And then, going back to exactly what Rinpoche just said, because you said you were able to learn without knowing you were learning.
Yeah.
Because of story, because you enjoyed stories, right?
Yes.
So again, if you go back to parents and kids, if you go, okay, if your kid does something that's not right, and then you go, okay, you give them a nice scolding, you're like, be nice, be kind, be compassionate. They'll be like, okay, but then they wouldn't want to do it. They'd be like, oh, and then if you tell them go pray now at this time, they'd be like why? I don't want to do this. I want to do this because I'm doing this. But then if you hold their hand, and go, okay, like let's come with mom, come with dad. Let's go into the prayer room quickly, and then we'll do a couple of prayers, and then we'll go out, get some lunch. Be like, okay, cool. Like this is what I want to do with my family, with my parents, right? And then if we relate back to your story as well, Rinpoche's story, it's like if the parents they just kind around their kids instead of fixing the wrong behavior, their advice on what the right behavior should be. Instead of saying no, that's wrong, just be like, no, it's a better way of doing it. It's this like this.
True.
You remember it, right? Because it's something that you enjoy. Because I don't think any kid doesn't. There's no kid in the world that doesn't enjoy learning, but it's the environment and how you're taught.
And there has to, and one of the ways, incentive.
Exactly, right?
No.
So if exactly with kids as well, especially with kids, if there's something to gain out of it, they'd be like, oh, cool. But then if they're doing something bad and then you scold them and tell them to do that, they're not gonna listen.
Yeah.
But if you do something, if they're doing something and you're like, oh, let me just correct it to do it like this. But remember, if you do it like this, this is what will happen. And they'll be like, oh, now if I do this, then I gain this out of the bigger picture.
Exactly. I always tell you another story of my childhood was when I was around 5 years old. I was in Ladakh. So that time, Rinpoche's wife Mayumla, was the one who first taught me how to read the Chöke, or Dzongkha, first. So her incentive to me was that every day you must read. I think it was around 5 pages or something. If you read the 5 pages, then we will play for 1 hour.
That's a good exchange.
And I used to love reading the Dzongkha, reading the how to read. And then and then after that, as a gift to Mayumla, and we'll go to the behind the temple where there used to be small stream. Then we'll make the wooden bridges,
Yes.
and together. And Mayumla used to tell me, I didn't remember. She used to tell me that, you are very good at reading your page, but after you read your page, and if I don't take you, then you will show temper. Then he's saying it is very unfair, I will say, And so that's how skillful, they taught us, upbringing. I think we were very kind to have, kind of for you, I think, teacher in the form of parent,
Yes, definitely.
and myself as well.
Yes, definitely. I think it's something that's very special, and hopefully, all parents, future parents, and to myself, I'm able to integrate in the future as well.
Yep.
Because
Yep. So,
I think it's the best way of parenting, right?
yes. Yes.
And that's the only one. That's the one way I believe we will be able to continue Buddhism and hold our culture, hold our Bhutanese culture values,
Yes.
while also maybe trying to raise a family in a
Yeah.
Western society.
Yes. And I think one of the good things I think that I've been hearing is that now there are a lot of Buddhist centers coming up, especially Bhutanese centers. I think and I think this is wonderful news, because I was just sharing with my fellow Lopins and teachers that it's wonderful, because even even if we have 100 centers, we cannot fit all the Bhutanese that are in Perth,
Exactly that.
right?
Yes,
So that means more center means there'll be more outreach, and people according to distance, location will go to
exactly.
these centers, and they should be somehow I'm sure they'll come back learning something.
Yes,
You know,
definitely that.
every Buddhist master will have his own wisdom, his own blessing, grace. And sometimes you learn things not from teaching, but from how they interact with others,
Yes,
right? So I think that that's something that I think very wonderful news for the I think Buddhism, Bhutanese and Buddhism in Australia. And I hope the parents will also take the full opportunity to find out, about these new developments in the centers in their area, and make the effort to go themselves, learn, and teach their children, take them also, and when their children is the time to teach.
exactly. And I think the Bhutanese community in Perth especially has to be very grateful to yourself, Dokhampa, because you were the basic, let's just say the whenever you build a house you always have to have the good base, right? The good base,
Foundation.
the foundation, yes. The foundation of centers, foundation of cultural centers, and then starting from Drupa Perth, very small, I remember, in Glendalough.
Yeah.
It was the top floor as well.
Yeah.
It was just a 2 bedroom place, and then you could probably maybe fit maximum 20 people, I believe.
Yeah,
Without
not
getting,
even that. I
not even
think.
that,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then from there, and then getting complaints regarding parking.
That's true. That's true. So many complaints we
Exactly.
received.
And then from there on, went to there was, and then I moved to I think Yokine, correct? Yokine or
Yes,
Osborne Park,
yes,
where you
yes.
had a
Your
bigger
kind.
backyard.
Yeah, yeah.
But then the house was still renting.
And still receiving a lot of complaints.
Exactly. And then now you're Drupa then converted, got incorporated as an association,
Australia.
Drupa Australia, and then you were able to assist Drupa Australia into being the first, first community associated incorporation that purchased a house slash a community center. Let's just
Yes,
say, right?
yes, yes.
And because of that, I think that inspired a lot of other groups to do so, and then follow
Yes.
in Drupa Perth and Drupa Australia, sorry, and Dokhampa's Rinpoche's footsteps. So I think the community needs to be very grateful for that. And I've also noticed, although your Rinpoche doesn't state out loud, but I do. After having a good conversation, after having a good chat with Rinpoche, I realized that Rinpoche makes his visit every now and then because you also fear what I've just mentioned.
That's true. That's
About
true.
the loss of culture,
Yeah.
identity, and religion.
Yes.
And I've realized that Rinpoche always makes time to come to Australia, especially Perth, right?
Yeah.
Because the amount of people that are here. And although you're traveling a lot yourself, you make sure you come to Australia. You make sure you come to Perth. You try to make activities to involve youth, to involve the elderly, to involve everyone else. And then I think this year especially was a very special year for yourself as well, and for the community, because Rinpoche was able to, along with Drupa Australia, sorry, able to plan a trip to go to Uluru.
Yeah.
And that happened recently, didn't it?
Yes.
And
Yes.
from what I also heard, with having a chat with Dr. Sonnenfelden, no, Auntie slash Dr. Sonnenfelden, I call her Auntie, but Auntie said that there was 374 people walking around in a straight
Yes.
line at
Yeah.
Uluru which is incredible.
1 kilometer, I think the line was.
The line, wow. And then it took what I believe 3.5 hours.
4 hours to
4 hours.
go around, because so many of us, I think.
And then from what I heard as well, there were individuals aged from 3 months old to
80.
90s apparently.
90s, yes,
I think,
yes.
I think if I'm not
Yes.
wrong, 98
Yes.
was it 91?
Not 90, I think
90?
around early 90s.
Early 90s,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So then I was hearing all of that, and I was like, wow, I wish I went as well. But I was in a sticky situation where I went on a holiday as well,
Okay.
and then I was unable to attend Rinpoche's initial. I think it was on the 23rd week of July here, or
Yeah,
the one.
yes, yes.
And then I flew out the night before to pick up my brother and my dad from Bhutan. Had a little holiday, and then when I got back, I saw that people were going to Uluru and all of that. I was like, damn, I wish I was able to join, because it would have been an incredible trip. Not just an experience, but more of like a memory, and it's something to help cement the culture and Buddhism within the community. Because then they go, okay, cool. Look, if you look at it, there's 374 of us that have gone around Uluru, which is not in WA. You have to take multiple flights to get there.
That's true.
If people are willing to do that, it shows that there are at least 374 of them that are willing to stay connected.
True.
But then there might be another 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 that want to do that next time, right?
True.
And if that keeps increasing, then, like I said, it could go negatively, where you're starting to lose people, but conversely, it could go positively,
Yes.
where you're engaging more people, and then there's more awareness being spread about the religion and our culture, right?
And many Bhutanese, I heard, they saved money, they worked overtime, they put so much effort to come to Uluru. It was not easy for them. That was very touching to me. I will say that for me, rather than someone giving me $1 billion, they're hearing that, that many of the Bhutanese took so much effort to save money, work hard. And I was telling them that they might be thinking that their good karma is only when they reach Uluru. But I will say that every overtime they did, every sacrifice they made, it was made in order to, to develop the Dharma within themselves, for Dharma. Every overtime was actually a Dharma practice, and that is the best gift to any Buddhist teacher. And like you said, yes, I do worry about losing the culture, losing the Buddha Dharma, because Bhutan is so important to, I think to all the Buddhist masters, but especially to myself, having spent almost, more than 20 over years there, and I myself studied in Bhutan, have been benefited by growing up in that environment, and I don't want, to this precious culture and teaching to be lost. And I think that whether it will be lost or not, I don't think we can say that just because it is many Buddhists have, now come to move out, it will definitely be lost. Yes, it will be more challenging to preserve the culture and the Buddhism in Australia, but that means we have to make the extra effort. In Bhutan, I think we didn't realize it, but Guru Rinpoche, Jabdrung, their majesties, as well as the Che Khenpos and great masters, made the effort on behalf of us and created this environment.
Exactly, even especially seen through the education system.
Yes, here I think the Buddhist centers, the parents, the teachers will have to make the extra effort to fill that gap. But we can do it.
Yes.
Even talking to you, so you were telling me that you are, I think you're soon going to get a pilot license.
Yes.
And you actually want to go back to Bhutan and serve the country and fly on the wings of dragon.
Yes.
Yes, you are reversing the trend. You are from Australia going back to Bhutan. That's such a wonderful thing to hear.
Yes, I think because I wasn't able to, when I was younger, spend much time in Bhutan, I think it was just something that clicked onto me. I said, okay, even if I'm not able to go there for a very long time, at least for a few years, I want to go there, help like, do what I can. Essentially, I'm getting paid, but like more than just getting paid. Even if the pay is better here, I'd still rather take the job there because I want to go there and then do something that's right for the people at least. Although it doesn't feel like much, probably sounds a bit hypocritical to some because they're like, okay, cool, he's just going to be flying a plane, but it's still, for me, it's still something because I'm going to Bhutan, I'm working for Bhutan.
Yes.
It's just something that's still close to my heart.
Connecting with your roots.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
But for some, it might not feel like that. They might just say, oh, he's just going there because he wants to fly around there. But for me, it's deeper. It's much deeper than that.
Yeah, I know. I understand. I understand.
Yeah, and then I think was there I think we're running short on time, but
Yep.
to Rinpoche, I think I would if you have anything else you'd like to share to the people of Perth, Australia, or maybe anywhere in the world that are watching.
I think, firstly, I think we thank you so much for being a wonderful host, and also I think thank you for inviting us. The Heart to Heart podcast. The organizers to inviting us, and it was wonderful to share and also know that even a young Bhutanese like yourself also values Buddha Dharma and Buddhist culture so much. Even you feel concerned. That actually makes me feel like that there's a lot of hope for the future. Just the fact that you care about it. Everything starts from caring. And lastly, to all the Bhutanese viewers, from the depth of my heart, I want to thank that every time we come, whether it's to Australia, whether it's to United States, whether it's in Bhutan itself, the kindness and the warmth of Bhutanese people have always touched me. And even this time trip to Australia was no exception. Warmth and kindness to me, to my monks, to the Kung Fu nuns, Drupa Kung Fu nuns that we brought to inspire more of our female practitioners we invited. They all were so touched by the kindness, and they felt that they were not in Australia, they felt they were in Bhutan. And that shows the value of and the goodness of the Bhutanese people. And from once again, on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you all. And I will look forward to coming back again, and connecting with the Bhutanese in Australia.
Thank you very much, Rinpoche. Thank you very much for making time out of your busy schedule to come here. I had a great time, and especially Rinpoche being so close to the Bhutanese community here, but more on a personal level for myself and for my family. I think initially when I was told that when I was asked to do Rinpoche's podcast, I was very excited. Then I woke up this morning. I was very nervous. I was like, Ajum, do I need to make this like an interview? I don't want to make it like an interview. I want to have like a proper conversation with Rinpoche. But at the same time, I don't want people to think I'm being disrespectful. How do I do it? And then I was very nervous. And then even waiting for Rinpoche here, I was telling Ajum and Ajum, I was like, wow, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then Dr. Sonna Belgium, and she arrived, and then she was just like, just be yourself, just be yourself. And sitting down having a conversation before we started, I felt at ease, and I was like, wow, like this is lovely. So thank you very much, Rinpoche.
Thank you,
And thank you for everything you've done for the community, for my family, for myself as well.
My pleasure.
I hope we get to meet again on your next visit. Thank you very much, Rinpoche. And thank you to all our listeners.
Yes.
This is Heart to Heart. Thank you.